All right. All right. All right. Okay. Need to just get set up. Get all my notes in order. Make sure that we are good to go. Well, for the Facebook Live feed. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. We're getting set up. Notes in order. Make sure that we are good. While everybody's joining, I'm making sure I got everything that I need. Welcome to the Latanya Moore Morning Show. Today we have a freaking awesome topic. Thank you so much again for joining live. Like, share, comment. Make sure you like the page. Let me know that you're here. Look, I got stuff everywhere to make sure that I can pay attention to what's going on, and I can keep track of where we all are and where I need to be. But I'm really excited again that you guys are joining me for these live feeds, and for those of you that are joining on the replay, again, thank you so much for joining as well. Very excited. Thank you for joining. I'm trying to, for some reason, I am not seeing the live feed, which is unusual because typically I can see that. So if I don't acknowledge that I am seeing you, please know that it is not my intention to do that. I'm trying to figure out where this is so that I can. Okay, so I may not be able to see the live feed today, but for you guys that have questions, please leave your questions in the comments. As you know, at the end of every Zoom, I go through the questions. For those of you that are watching on the replay, thank you for joining as well. But please leave your questions. I monitor questions all day, and I do my best to answer them. For those of you that are joining live, again, thank you so much. Today we are going to be talking about legal traps on social media, and the three things I want to cover really are things like photographs, videos, music, products. And I know that all of you have heard about people that, you know, they have some music going in the background and then Facebook cancels their account, or at least restricts them, for going live for a certain amount of time. So we're going to start with the music because I think that that's sort of what people kind of resonate with when we think about Facebook Live or social media across the board. It doesn't just go there, because just because Facebook restricts you from going live for a certain amount of time, that really doesn't release you from the obligation, because now you have used someone's copyrighted music, you know, with probably no license, you know, or anything like that, which of course is why Facebook restricts the live feed when you have music playing in the background that is not royalty free. We all like music, you know, we like to get down, we like to dance, but this is a big thing that you have to think about, because if this is something that you want to do, you want to make sure that you have a license to do it, or take some time and look for some royalty-free music, or better yet, for those of you that are using things like Facebook marketing, Facebook Live, or any live media for branding, why not just get your own music made? Why not have a theme song? You know, that's just a business tip. And I know, again, thank you so much. Please like, share, comment, ask your questions. For some reason, I cannot see the live question feed like I normally do. And so I will have to answer your questions at the end of the feed, but please make sure that you leave them. But so that's really the biggest tip about music. Just make sure that you have permission to use the music, or otherwise get your own. I mean, that's what we're doing today. When you think about branding, there's nothing wrong with having a cute little jingle or a theme song. You know, you can utilize some of the cheaper platforms like Fiverr. You can also utilize like Upwork for someone to produce you your own personal theme song. So again, something to think about when you're looking at music. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on music, just because I know that you guys are pretty familiar with how music works. I do want to say that you also have to be careful with music when you are producing some type of video to showcase your business. So for example, and this is going to also take us into videos, for those of you that do any type of video marketing, video production, any type of video-based business where that is the service that you're selling, that is the product that you're selling. When you utilize people's images, when you utilize people's voices, regardless, there is some potential exposure there. So you have to ask, the right questions. You have to make sure that they're comfortable and they're okay. The big thing is get a release. Get a release, not just any release. You guys know we talked about it in a previous video about online contracts. Don't just get a release offline and just use it. Get a release that makes sure it covers every aspect of what you want to do with this particular person's image, whether it's video, whether it's pictures, whether it's their voices, all of that. Always get a release so that in the release they know up front how you're going to use the video. I always say the best type of release is what we call a blanket release, which means that you can really use it in any type of way. The biggest thing that you want to make sure that's included in that release is the right to commercial use. You want to be able to use it in your business. You want to be able to use it, and you want to make sure it says commercial use and not promotional use. For example, because commercial use says that you can use it just like the way that I'm saying. You can use it for advertising, you can use it in your marketing efforts, and you can use it as a way to make money for your own business. That's really what commercial use is. And a lot of people don't understand that aspect of it, which is why we're talking about it today. So again, think about the videos. The other thing that you really want to be careful with regard to videos is downloading and using other people's videos. There are so many royalty-free videos out there that you can use and you can utilize that you really don't have to take other people's videos. But if you decide that you want to use somebody else's video, you really need to get a license. You really need to reach out to them. If this is video that you've taken, for example, you want to get that person's permission. You want to get their permission to be able to utilize the video in the way that you want to use it. So for those of you that are snatching videos down off of Facebook and deciding, and I'm just using Facebook as an example because we're Facebook Live, but this applies to any platform. For those of you that decide that you want to take somebody's video and re-alter it and decide that you're going to make some type of collage, and I, as a matter of fact, I saw videos that exact thing happened to. I've seen videos in groups where people have used other people's video and edited them together, and they've made this whole story, and they've used these people's likenesses without their permission. They've used them out of context. And I mean, there's technically liability there, but of course, usually that's something that people may not pursue. But it is something that you really need to think about when you are using a platform like this for your business. So again, video is very important. And for those of you that are producing video and you're producing content, the best thing that you can do is always brand your content. Always brand it. You want to make sure that you have your logo embedded in the video. So if anybody decides that they want to steal it, if anybody decides that they want to repurpose it, they can't do that without your logo and your video being on there. Now, well, let me say this. I don't know enough about video editing, but you get the drift. So you want to make sure that you do that. Same thing with photos. I know that I was just messaging with someone this morning who mentioned that there are so many people that are utilizing his photos, his product, his copyright, and they're putting it on pictures. They're putting it on products. They're probably t-shirts, all sorts of things that he's seeing. And so one big thing, again, for photographers and anyone that's producing pictures and you're utilizing these pictures in a commercial way, this is your business, this is what you do. The biggest thing that you want to do is make sure that you brand those particular photos. Because the thing about copyrights is that a copyright technically exists when the product is created. At that point, that's when the copyright exists. But when you put it out without going through the proper channels, when you put it out without giving the proper credit and things of that nature, then you run the risk of falling into that whole copyright infringement. You just run the risk of falling into that. And so that's the way you want to avoid that. You want to avoid that by using some of these tips and doing some of the things that I'm telling you. Because again, photos are really, really big. I see people using photos, they make memes, they do all sorts of stuff. But on the other side, guys, for those of you that have professional photos done, if you are having professional photos done and you have a makeup artist and all of that, why not give those folks credit? Because typically the photographer is really going to want you to give them credit. They're probably in your contract. It probably says that if you reproduce, you must give them credit. That's typical. I always encourage even hairstylists, even makeup artists, even people that are providing the wardrobe, who is working with you on your photo shoots. I always even advise those groups to make sure that they have something in writing, because typically, that's something that you talk about. Oh, I want you to do my hair for this photo shoot. Okay, well, I need to get credit every time this picture goes out, because again, that's a side way of not just protecting your business, but also promoting your business. So you have to think about that. And for those of us that have been in those situations, I mean, even myself, I've had some professional photos done that I've forgotten to give photo credit to when I've posted them. And when I see that, I try to always go back and do that. So I'm making it a point for myself to actually say, okay, let me just do this. Now, of course, these are things that I've never talked about with the photographer, but I know, being in the profession that I am and the fact that I work with entrepreneurs, I know that this is something that I should be doing. This is something that's my responsibility, because anytime you use someone else's work, you need to get credit. Number one. Number two, like I said, when we're talking about music, we're talking about videos, we're talking about things like that, products that you want to create. You need to get a license to use those, that particular media, whether it's videos, whether it's photos, whether it's music. You really need to get a license. You need to have an agreement in place with whoever this person is, of what's going to happen with this product. So like, for example, if I utilize somebody's product and I want to put it on a mug and it's a picture that someone else did, we have to decide, or we should decide up front, am I just buying or purchasing a license from them to put it on this product? Or are we in more of a partnership arrangement where they're going to get their royalties off of the sales of the items? It could be either way. But the bottom line is, these are things that you need to discuss before you just decide that you saw an awesome picture online. And again, this is not just social media, this is online. And believe it or not, even when you have a photo shoot with a photographer, you need to have a release from the photographer to be able to reprint those photos. And photographers, if you're not using this, you need to have something in place as well. And don't get it offline. But seriously, what you really need to do is you need to really think about the amount of media that you see all day through social media. You see pictures, you see videos, you hear music, you see products, you see all of these things. And so the question is there a license? So before you get started, these are the things that you need to do. We're just doing some really quick legal tips about some social media traps. And I try to make sure that I do presentations, or I talk to you honestly on a daily basis about things that I see that people contact me about. Things that people want assistance with, because I realize that this is what's going on and this is what's out there. And so again, it's vital. It is vital that you give credit where credit is due. It is vital that you get permission if you are going to use, alter, or in any way commercialize someone else's product. It's vital that you do that, because what you don't want to do is start to build a brand, for example, around that. Hey, Carrie, thanks for joining. But what you don't want to do is build a brand around that only for people to find out that you stole someone else's product. you stole someone else's image, I'm sorry, to create a product. That's the thing that you don't want to do. And for people that are putting pictures out and putting media out through social media, the first thing that you can do to protect yourself is brand it. The second thing that you can do is use the little copyright symbol in what you put out. Use your logo, use your copyright symbol, so that anyone that sees that, they are on notice that this is a copywritten or copyright, or this is copyrighted material. Those are things that you can do for free, especially when you're talking about photos, especially when you're talking about videos. Music is almost understood that this is something that's copywritten, but you don't know that with video. For example, you don't know that with photo. You don't know to go in and put the little circle with the C, on there. And of course, when you register it, that all changes, and we can talk about that, later on. But these are the quick tips and tools that you need to do. The other thing too, for those of you that are working off logos, you design like these really cool graphics for people, you need to give them either or require them to pay extra for commercial use. So one, this is a way, because if they're going to use it in the commercial market and they're going to be making money off of it, there needs to be some type of understanding and agreement in place. So that's the first thing you need to think about. I've seen several videos from graphic designers who have had this very issue. You need to decide up front if you want to retain any type of ownership in the particular design. Because remember, as the design creator, you really do have some ownership interest in it, even though the people have paid you to do it. Now, typically, you don't want any ownership rights. You don't care, but it needs to be clearly defined. The other part that needs to be clearly defined is once you decide to do that, once you decide who the owner is, the second thing is there any type of limit or restriction on the use? If it is, you need to make sure that you put it out. Now, let me say this for people that do designs for other people or things that have to be approved. Stop sending the graphic to people and they can download it. Put a watermark in it at a minimum until you get the final approval and your final payment. That's one thing that you can do. The other thing that I want you guys to start doing, even for video, to be honest with you, do the same thing. Set up a cloud account, any type of cloud account, upload these images to the cloud account and give them view only. Stop giving people the entire product and then expecting payment down the road, or expecting that they're not going to say, well, I'm not satisfied with this, I don't want it. But then you later see them utilizing this in the normal course of business. And now you've done this work and that you've not been paid for. Because these are some things that you need to do up front. These are just some practice tips, honestly, that you can utilize so that you make sure that you're not in a bad situation later on where you haven't done a lot of work and then now you haven't been paid. So again, today I just wanted to do some really short legal tips and really some social media traps, because where I find this most when my clients come to me and people come to me for consultations, where I find this most is when someone found someone through social media, or they saw their design somewhere on social media. So they're wanting to know, how can I now make this person not do this? Now, we talk about that. And again, I don't talk too much about specifics like that here, because I don't want anyone to utilize what I'm saying on their own, and it may not be pertinent to their situation. But what I really want you to understand is just the things that you need to think of. Again, I always say, do not use online contracts as is. If you want to find something online so you can kind of get an idea, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But always, always, always get a professional to review your contracts, especially when you're talking about standard contracts, especially when it's something like products or services or anything that's going to result in any type of ownership interest. That's something that you really, really, really need to do. Hey, Lee, thanks for joining. So again, really excited about all of the things that are happening. Thank you guys so much for supporting the LaTanya Moore Morning Show. And thank you so much for being so active. Really, just honestly, I didn't know that it was going to take off like that, but I am excited. I'm honored that you guys are sending your questions, you're sending in your comments. You can also check out iprotectyourbrand.com for those of you that are looking for something that's a little bit more intense. I am going to be doing a lot of very pointed webinars in the future. That's actually going to be over on the LaTanya Moore Facebook fan page. So you may want to go ahead and like that page. We're not going to be promoting it widespread. We're just going to be putting it out for the people that are a part of that page. So you may want to go on over and like that page so that you can make sure that you are in the know when all of those things are happening. Again, thank you guys so much for joining. For whatever reason, I cannot see the live feed. Immediately after this, I will go back to the feed and answer any questions that you have. For those of you that are joining on the replay, again, thank you so much for joining. Leave your questions. I do monitor questions and comments for one full day so that I can make sure that I'm responsive to the people that are reading this. If you don't want to put your question in the comments, you can always inbox me and ask your question. Again, if you want to set up a consultation or something like that, you think your question may be beyond that, or you need to get in touch with me directly, you can go to the website. Again, you can go to iprotectyourbrand.com. That's going to direct you right to where you need to be to contact me for something a little bit more in depth. So before we leave, I want to just say this one thing. You know, we have to have that one thing at the end. Really, really think about protecting your product. Protect your photos and your videos with logos and copyrights. I mean, make them where people cannot, you know, sometimes people crop it, they cut it out. Always be on the lookout for your photos. The other thing too that I didn't say that I can say now is that you can also tag the photos. You can also put metadata in your photos so that you can track that through Google, and you can Google how to do that, you know, as well. But make sure that you're doing all of those. Put in the metadata. Take that extra time so that you can make sure that you have all of those systems in place so that you can track whoever's trying to utilize your product. Again, get a copyright. Copyrights, okay, they are, you technically have a copyright when you produce a product, meaning you produced it, you own it. But it's not a real copyright. It's not a formal copyright. And before you can sue someone for copyright infringement, oftentimes they'd like for you to have a formal copyright. I don't suggest that people do this on their own. I don't suggest that people do anything legal on their own. So you're going to always hear me say that. But sometimes there are people that have a grasp and a good understanding of how to do that. So I suggest you can try that on your own. But I always suggest, honestly, that you reach out to a professional who does this. And this is what they do. They understand how to do that. And so they make sure that they can help you with that. But get your copyright. Think about whether or not you want to sell rights to your product, or whether or not you just want to license it. You know, again, those are all things that you need to think about. And all of this needs to be in your agreement that you have with your customer, because that's going to come up later down the road. I've had a lot of people that have produced all sorts of graphics and things like that, only to see that the person that they produced it for made bukus of money licensing or relicensing that particular logo. But they didn't have any ownership interest in it. They didn't retain any type of ownership rights. It was just fee for service. So again, these are some legal traps. And the reason that I put it out there about social media is that typically that's going to be one of the fastest ways that people are going to get access to the raw file. I mean, they're just going to get access to it that way. So again, beware of what you put out. And when you put it out, make sure that it's protected. Same things with products. People, stop taking people's photos and logos and things like that and putting it on your products and selling them, because it is going to catch up with you. And believe it or not, you may actually run into some prosecution for that. Now, again, that's beyond this video, but there's certainly some things that you can do better, that I encourage you to do better. And again, thank you so much for joining me. I'm here 9 a.m. Central Standard Time every Monday through Friday. We talk about legal tips. We talk about business tips. We talk about a lot of different things, but mostly what I want to talk about and I want to bring programming is about protecting your brand. So thank you guys so much for joining me this morning. Going to be right back here tomorrow. Leave your questions, comments, like, share, and I will get to them at some point throughout the day. Have a good day.